This is my second time here. I've had some travel and vacation and whatnot, but it's really amazing to see how much this has grown. In the two times I've been here so far, and I'm really excited to be able to talk to you all today. I see a lot of familiar faces, which is really great as well. All right, cool. So let's get started. We'll start with a scenario. A lot of us are technologists, leaders, in one way or the other in the engineering space. We've been in scenarios where you join a new company and you're trying to assess, where to start with this new organization that you've joined, right? What's your job number one? And regardless of what your position is as an engineering leader, whether you're VP of engineering like myself or a director or a line manager, right? You want to kind of assess how you're going to have an impact with this organization. So let's make this a conversation. If I could ask you all what you think job number one is, if you were in that scenario, what would that be?
Assessing your team, assessing the team is there.
Yeah, why is that? Why would that be job one for you?
What tools, resources you are working with. Get that initial perspective.
Perfect. Go for it. What's your name, by the way?
Team, executives, who's really in charge, auditing finance, how the organization kind of runs.
Nice. That's a good one.
Engage your stakeholders, right?
Yeah. Cool, right? All of these are like people activities, right? It's really interesting, right? Nobody said anything about technology or the product, right? I agree with you all. So the key assessments that you need to make, right? I would add another part, right? When you join an organization, a lot of the folks in the company maybe have some expectations that they haven't communicated to you, right? That you need to kind of figure out. And there's a sense of continuity that you need to have in whatever mandate you're executing against. So it's really important to know what that is. All right, cool. Gaston, thank you. Talent analysis. That's exactly right. This is an example of something I did when I joined Apartment List. I got a list of some of the folks within the team that were really important for me to get a sense of where they were. And some of the key things that I wanted to track, aside from, who these people are, and I've kind of, edited out any PII. What's the level of these individuals? When were they hired? When was the last time they got promoted, if they ever did? What was their previous performance management score? And if you were to score them right now, what would that score be? And I also want to know the trend. Are we trending up, down? There's some interesting nuggets in this case, and this is just an arbitrary one I kind of modeled for this conversation. There's some folks, for example, that were exemplary and got a promotion in the last cycle that are now underperforming. What does that mean, right? That probably means that there's a management issue, perhaps, or someone was promoted too soon. So there's a lot of really interesting things you can kind of pull out of this. And then you want to know, on the incentive side, are these folks up for promotion? Are they up for any kind of merit increase, right? These are all incentives that drive people to do work. And then the other key thing is, what is their current level? And the reason that's important is, as you're joining an organization, right, you have ideas about how you want to have an impact on the company, but you're also like stepping into someone's career path. And you need to know where you are in that person's career path, right? In order to help, drive your team towards, a new direction, if that's what you're trying to accomplish. So I've got some basic questions here, about, kind of the mental model that, you'll need to go through as you step into this new role. Some of the questions that folks may be ready to ask you on day one, right? Folks in your team might want to know, like, when will I be promoted? You just got there, right? How are you going to be able to answer that question? So I need to know, like, how am I going to track my team's progress alongside them in real time? Folks might be asking, hey, what are the opportunities you have for me over the next 2 years? they just hired a new engineering leader. This could be a very disruptive thing for me. What are you going to tell me for me to stay here? If that's important to me, right? The business on the other side might be asking you about, well, look, there's a lot going on in the space right now. Our competition is moving very quickly. Can you assess the team quickly enough to put together a tiger team, a fully staffed team to go after a particular product feature or business opportunity, right? I need to be able to answer that question pretty quickly. I don't think I get the luxury of saying, well, the market can wait a bit while I get onboarded for about 4 months, and then I'll get back to you, right? It's not the world we live in. We might have some questions, especially in this climate where folks are being laid off and let go in numbers that are just astonishing. We just lost someone. Should we even backfill this person? And so I need to think about what are the gaps in talent in my team, and how do I bring that forward in a way that allows me to assess what is available in the market so that I can quickly hire. Any other questions aside from these 4 questions that folks might want to bring to the discussion?
Well, a quick comment said, if in my first week, somebody asked me when they're going to be promoted, that's a red flag.
If that's something, well, you know what? Just because they don't ask, it doesn't mean they're not thinking about it, right?
That's true, but that's definitely not the way. That's definitely not the way to get the promotion.
Fair. Well, what's a more comfortable time frame? Week 6? All right. So back to the main objective. Managing and assessing talent is definitely job number 1. And as all 3 examples at the very beginning of this, nobody talked about the product or engineering. We talked about the people, right? The way you build software as a leader is not by focusing on that, right? It's by focusing on the talent in your team. And so I'm glad we all agree. All right, so introducing myself. Thank you, Laura. A little bit about my work experience. I spent most of my life in the South Florida area, but I have been back and forth between the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area and San Francisco. I got my start in the corporate world with CBSSports.com. Actually, it was Sportsline, a local startup, if anybody knows Sportsline, right?
Right in front of the airport, right?
That's right. FXC, Florida executive. Yeah, I actually got my pilot's license as well because I would go next door, have lunch, and I just decided why not. But yes, so all of those websites that Laura was talking about, NFL.com, MLB, so on and so forth, was while I was working at Sportsline, which got acquired by CBSSports.com. But I got to contribute in a meaningful way to helping build this product called MMOD, very first video-on-demand product that's on the internet. So if folks love college basketball and you go online to watch college basketball, that was something me and 2 of my colleagues at work built, pitched it to the company. It became a big thing, and we got a bunch of software patents off of it. So that's kind of where that comes from. We did some other clever things too, like before Ajax, we had this thing, or reactive, front-end development. We had our own version of it that we call scrapjacksing. It's in the U.S. Patent Office. It's very embarrassing compared to what's available now, but such is life. I got to live out my dream and go to the Bay Area and work for LinkedIn. This is before the Microsoft acquisition, and I led search for LinkedIn. The back end side of LinkedIn, the way LinkedIn actually makes its money, and I'm sure some of us already know this, the front side, the front end side where we all talk to each other, that's not it. The back end, all the data that we aggregate from that activity gets sold back to recruiters, and there's a product called Recruiter that allows people to find talent, right? Let's see what else. Oh, I have a little funny one here. I got an offer to join Epic Games in North Carolina, and got to ride in Tim Sweeney's Ferrari, which was really cool. I love, all of the games that company makes. I did turn them down. I did not take the job, but just like an interesting thing. And worked at Fidelity Investments. I don't think I want to be in banking ever again, but it was interesting. And I've been head of engineering my last 3 roles at Gusto, which is the largest small business payroll company. I led engineering for payroll and time. And when you met me, I was at EcoCart, the sustainability company. Unfortunately, in this economic climate, climate's not that important, I guess. So had to do a lot of restructuring, and so I'm not there. It kind of breaks my heart. But I'm at Apartment List. And what is Apartment List? Apartment List is an ILS. It's an internet listing service where apartment communities can list their properties on our platform, and we bring renters to basically connect them with the home that they love. Now, there are a lot of really big players in this space. I'll stack rank them. Zillow, number 1, Apartments.com, number 2, and then 3 is Redfin, and then we're back there, number 4. We're about 230 person company. My engineering team is about 55 at the moment. We have a team out of Israel that we recently acquired. They do a lot of our machine learning AI work. And let's see what else. We're starting to hire in Canada. Hopefully that becomes a market for us soon. And the interesting thing about our business model, unlike the other 3, is that we create a bit of friction on the front end of our product. We ask inbound renters, 13 questions about what they're looking for. That really hurts us in terms of organic traffic. Google doesn't like that at all. But Google's like changing their algorithm all the time. Now they've got AI eating up like a third of their PageRank space. So everybody's hurting right now in the Google space. If anybody, I don't want to trigger anybody here, but what's interesting about our model is, I was telling someone earlier today, if you were to be in the future and talk to your grandchildren and tell them how you used to rent cars, rent apartments, buy airline tickets, you would tell them that I typed a bunch of words in the search box, and then I had no idea what was in the list, right? Because some of the results I got were actually paid for, right? And I didn't know that. And then I would click on stuff and then interact with the service provider and then make a purchase. What Apartment List does is it uses AI to qualify those questions and try to get to a connection, a lease being signed as soon as possible. And that competition on performance of the true value of what the platform is, right, or the intention, is why we believe we're going to win that market, while the other, companies kind of run this archaic, way of doing things. So this is my little plug for Apartment List. If anybody's looking for apartments or knows anyone who's in, it's free. It's totally free. It doesn't cost you anything. There's no fraud on our site because we have a deep integration with all of our apartment listers. So check it out if you can. All right, cool. Enough of the pitches. So as I said earlier, we just started at this new company and we're jumping into someone's career at some point, right? And so what we need to do is kind of step back and understand, where are we in a person's career journey? And so the way I like to do that is, let's go back and kind of map out an engineer's career. And I really like the structure of our careers. You can start as an intern, and then as you progress through your career, you get to a senior software engineer, you get to make a decision. Am I going to go into management, or am I going to go deeper into the technical expertise space? And as I talked to Ronnie earlier today, you could totally skip that by just starting your own startup and then just go right to the end and be a CTO. I'm kidding. That was meant to be a joke. But so this is what it looks like, right? So when we look at people's those titles that people have, we're trying to plug them in to a point in that career. Now, how do we get them from where they are to somewhere else, right? Well, I have a rubric that I use. All of the L, M, X's, XS, etc. These are all T-shirt sizes for all of us, Jira Agile folks. And it measures the level of impact. And so what I've done is I've ranked, I've set this up from level 1 to 7, which maps back to the different positions. And I've color-coded it so that you've got yellow is for the ICs or the yellow hues, and then blue or for the managers. And the way this is supposed to work is, for example, if we were to look at a level 4 engineer, which would be basically effectively like a lead engineer, compared to a level 4 engineering manager, which is basically like a line manager. The way you would read this is you would say, well, that IC needs to have a large impact on project and team. Now, at a level 3 as a senior engineer, they would have had either an extra large or large impact. The same on craftsmanship. And so what that tells you is that you're expecting those folks to be, maybe code cowgirls and cowboys, folks that are just there, to really affect the impact of their team, deliver code, make sure it's high quality, and other things, other impact like impacting their teammates, kind of expect a bit of it to be able to mentor folks. And then on the organizational side, you're not as interested, right? You're not necessarily going to happy hour at the end of the week. You go in, you knock out your job, you go home. The manager on the other side, we see a different type of profile. A lot of focus on the team and the project directly, and making sure that what the team is delivering is also high quality. Now, if we kind of track this down from top to bottom on both sides, what we'll notice is that for the IC, from level 3 all the way through on craftsmanship, which means the quality of the code that you produce has to be extremely high, and it has to stay there all the way through. And then if we look at my ability to impact the people in my team, the people around me, that also has to be extremely high as well. And so where we see the deviation is really on project and team and on the org side. And so the case I want to make to you is the noise is on the outside. The noise is on the project and team and the org impact. What we really need to be focusing our ICs on is making sure that they're keeping a very high bar in their ability to deliver high quality software and code. And the other stuff is the stand-ups every day, the, hey, how is the project going? It's all of the distractions and the noise that eat up your time and take away from all of the real impact you're trying to have. And on the manager side, similar kind of patterns, if you kind of look through it, managers should be extremely focused on the noisy part that distracts the IC, which is the project and the team. And then also, people impact is really important as well, but all of this is in service of delivery to the organization. Any questions, comments on this before I move forward? I don't want to feel like I'm giving a class or something. All right, cool. So in a nutshell, reducing repetitive manual tasks is the greatest lever, right, to make work more connected and human while reducing burnout, real thing, and improving performance productivity. The other really interesting thing, if you go back and you look at the areas of focus that I was talking about, they're all very heavy on the people side, right? And so the case I want to make is that the importance of AI in our space is really to give us the opportunity to focus more on the people side of our jobs, right? And at the beginning, we talked about the three things that we wanted to assess, all people stuff. So let's get the noise out is the pitch I want to make in this conversation today. So what are the opportunities for AI and automation? Let's take a look at This is one of my engineers' work weeks. I pulled his calendar for the week, and I wanted to kind of like assess, where he's spending his time. And I'm using this as an example of what I call a typical engineer's time. And then I want to map that back to the same 4 axes that I was using to measure an engineer's opportunity to contribute to their own progress and performance. And so what we see is, over on the right-hand side, this talk about how AI impacts talent wouldn't be complete if I didn't ask ChatGPT what are the common things an engineer does in its week. And that's what we've got listed on the right. And so I've color-coded it with mapping back to where these work items or types of categories of work fit back into those axes. And so what we see is, there's an unequal distribution where there's a lot of red, right? This is the stuff that's really kind of taking this engineer away from being the very best that they could be. So now, what would this look like if I leveraged AI tools? And it looks like I could significantly cut down on the distractions or the things that I'm spending a lot of manual or time-consuming tasks right? And so what I'll show you on the next slide is that there's some really cool tools that we can bring forward, and I would encourage managers to implement these tools or similar tools into their day-to-day practices so that you're giving your people enough time to develop in the areas that actually matter and will make them very happy, so that you're creating a center of excellence where folks feel like they're coming to work for you to become the very best engineer possible. And so I've highlighted here in kind of color-coded, the areas of focus in my opinion, for an engineer is really on craftsmanship and people impact. And at the very highest levels, there is some org impact. So that's kind of like a third axis to pay attention to for people who are, your staff level engineers, principal engineers, et cetera. Things like team building, culture, for example, extremely important for folks developing mentoring and coaching, having customer and stakeholder interactions. These are things that we need people more focused in. So what are some of the tools? So I've listed some. There are some tools here that I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Tools like GitHub Copilot, right? This is not meant to displace anyone. It's really meant to kind of take the cruft out of the work, so that engineers are really focusing more on the learning and development side, and then using these tools to really get the project work through more efficiently and quickly. Everything from Jira's got a ton of plugins now to reduce a lot of manual repetitive tasks so that you can have engineers really focus on the things that are really, really important. Some really cool tools, Docusaurus, for example, with documentation is really great. Documentation is really important. The reason we don't have great documentation at our organizations, very time consuming, right? And because it's time consuming, we have a hard time onboarding people and getting the right information. Then the documentation becomes stale as well. And then it's almost, useless the minute you write it. I like to call them the Dead Sea Scrolls, right? You're reading about something that happened a long time ago. Anyway, and then security infrastructure, right? This becomes one of those things that we only respond to when something really bad happens. And I think we could be more proactive by leveraging some of these tools intentionally. All right, Manager's Week. Similar but different. A lot of focus on team management, project planning, stakeholder communication, risk management. Got to keep reporting up and out, right, to folks constantly. Really, really important stuff. And then my team, right, tons of one-on-ones with my folks, checking in on them. Some of that stuff could really be automated so that I have a better overview of how everyone's doing. So using the same, kind of process as I did before. We're going to highlight the areas that are really important for my development as a manager. That project and team, what I'm delivering and bringing to the business is extremely important. But I have tools that can make that a lot more efficient as well, right? My people, the key thing we all identified at the very beginning that's most important, that's where I should be spending most of my time, really talking to my people, making sure that they're healthy, they're good, they're productive. And hiring onboarding, I think, is the only one I would really recommend leveraging some AI tools. I like to use with performance management, I like continuous performance management tools. So the idea is to create these accessible rubrics that everyone understands, right? They're simple to understand, and then set up the metrics that you want to use to measure folks over time. And then your weekly one-on-ones become almost kind of like a dashboard readout of your performance based on you plugging in all of these tools that you've used, so that you're not having, these kind of almost pointless conversational one-on-ones. Hey, how are you doing? What did you do? Folks have to go back and think about it. We're not properly, accurately representing people's work. And then at the very end, right, there's a scramble to remember everything someone did. And it's horrible. And then someone leaves, and as a manager, I don't really know how much code they touched. Maybe I recommended to one of my, direct reports that wants to learn Go. I said, yeah, go learn Go. But then I haven't integrated a feedback loop to know that that's a skill and a capability. There are a ton of tools that will allow you to do that. So when you ask someone to go learn Go, for example, using LinkedIn Learning, you can plug, whether it be the certificates that come back or, some metric around whether they passed the thing that they're learning. You could bring that right back to your talent pool so you can assess it and you know exactly where everyone is, so that when, Susan says, hey, I found a way better job, I'm taking off, right? You have an accurate view of the skill gap, right? Or the skills that you invested in with Susan, so that when you go do that hire, you could do that a lot more intelligently. So here's some of the tools that I like to play with, or I'm interested in learning about. Has anyone ever used any of these tools? You want to tell me your experience?
Sorry. LinkedIn learning, beta duty, obviously for the other. Should have used the top her.
Have you ever used any of the AI components? Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. How's that worked out for you?
Limit all of it.
Good. Awesome. Anybody else? All right, cool. Oh yeah, one I really love here, Gem AI. It's an ATS. I don't know if anybody's ever used it. It really has a cool feature that allows you to get a ton of detail about candidates, right? And then if you're collecting that information already for your team, it's really great to integrate those two. And you can assess very quickly, right, whether a candidate that's inbound is mapping to your skill needs. It's a really, really cool thing to allow you, right now I'm hiring 2 people on my team. I think I have 600 applications. I mean, can you imagine me going through 600 applications, right? And to mentally, and I don't feel great every day, right? There's some days I'm on it and then there's some days I'm not. But can you imagine me doing that every single day consistently? Yeah.
Foot your job.
Go for it.
As you're bringing in this new light.
Yeah.
Fine. You're looking to insert that person into a team. Culture is a big component of it. How everybody gels together. Are these tools kind of helping to alleviate that or make that easier to find that good fit between the people who are growling around the project or for a specific feature?
So and I'd love to turn this question to other folks here as well, but I don't have a lot of experience with that. I have it in functions that are adjacent and contribute to it. I think the way I've looked at it is, how do I create enough space so that folks can be working, can be, other organizations I've worked at, for example, peer programming is kind of frowned upon. It feels like, like an expensive use of two people's time, right? But if you could get your teams running at 75% instead of 100% all the time, right? Then I think you can, create some of those opportunities is what I'm hoping for. Some ways I've also done it using tools is at LinkedIn, they had a very big code review culture where, for example, Gaston, you may have commented on a piece of my code and said, hey, Shawn, I think you could have done better in this area. Maybe you should do this instead. And I might say, who the hell is Gaston? Let me go look him up on his code review board and see the quality of his code, right? And that actually becomes, it sounds competitive, but it actually becomes a way to culturally rally people around excellence, right? Because it's not about necessarily dinging someone, because the person that critiques is also opening themselves up for critique, but it becomes very conversational. But no, I haven't.
That could be very toxic too, right? Because I do know, I'm one of my tech leads who ended up actually resigning. He was getting scrutinized in his pull request by a very senior architect. And, everybody did see that, and, the amount of pressure he was stealing eventually led him to, there were more factors in that, but I know that was...
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. Has anyone used, to Gaston's earlier question, has anyone used any of these tools to help with their teams? I can think of Bonusly. Has anyone used Bonusly? This is something I'm going to experiment with pretty soon, where instead of these fake shout outs on Slack, right? You create an incentive structure where you can send someone a bonus, and it comes with a real either dollars or lunch or something. And it could be recognition for, hey, this person stayed up with me really late helping me work on something, and I want to send appreciation. Those are the only tools I can think of, but I think it's worth exploring.
Is the one that we use at
Crackty?
Yeah, yes.
How does it work?
We integrated it. It's a little bit of a competitive because it accumulates points over lifetime. So if somebody has n number of crafty points, that this person has been really, so it becomes and there's dollars associated with it. That's what but so in some way, some monetary organization.
What's your name, by the way? Walid. Go for it.
We built our own engagement that both forward we basically reward and recognize that with that platform, gamifying, chat, give them challenges, getting a lot of data pointers, and you spoke about engineering and other data that we can gather all your employees are performing.
Okay.
So we gamify in that experience, and then so that being created as leaderboard that we can reward and recognize it, and within days or methods.
That's awesome. How did that contribute to the culture?
Well, what we have done is actually we have identified or we work hard with the manager that's born, create in the company, and we got recognition and recognition and appreciation is obviously one of those born well. And then, ethical practicing also wants the bad entity work, or with doing up people, thus we don't see, a sort of gratitude. So we identify ways, we create challenges for our employees, contribute to the values that we agree, show that all their rewarding and the water at night.
Got it.
Some people hate it.
Oh yeah. But why?
And there's no fear that I might feel this. Yeah, and you can see it.
Yeah. How do you deal with the lower, say, 40 percentile?
Our objective is to create heroes. Because no organization gets lost without value. our objective is to create heroes within the organization and help the organization elevate its, output by looking at those people. As then we have vision and organization developer for example as that, which actually through this, results, we are promoting them, giving them space, just like, spaces like this, these people are standing there, people are all, physically there, within their teams, in front of employees, because outsourcing don't even imagine transparency is so important for us.
Yeah.
Without that, we don't sell our services. So we are promoting that for our engineering manager, and we're promoting that for our engineers, that you have to be very transparent, connect with our guy. So we have created the entire experience end-to-end through our engineering development, through the full that we would have caught, where all the code is facilitating the order.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, I'll say the quiet part loud, to your point earlier, there are some people that are just not maybe the right fit for your organization. And the kindest thing you could ever do for someone is to be honest, right, about their performance and the standard that you have within your organization. We also I use Culture Amp to do my performance management within my team. And there are a lot of opportunities for folks to give feedback, and I encourage that. So that when we get to the review cycle, we're not arriving at a place that we didn't know we can track progress the whole way through. Does that answer your question, Gaston?
Yeah, well, it sounds like there's not really something good.
But so you got a startup idea?
Historically, I don't know, because I still find, unfortunately, the most effective method for me is it's time and trial and error. You bring somebody in,
right,
and they either fit or they don't fit with the group,
right.
That doesn't necessarily mean they're not a good fit for the organization,
right?
And that's kind of a challenge. It's not like your skill set is valuable. Your skill set may not be valuable here, but when you put them somewhere else, suddenly they may shine here. So that distinction is really important to make.
Yeah.
And I don't know any short.
Yeah. Well, the winners get to write the stories. So the folks that have the best track records, they'll just write a book and say whatever they did is what worked. I think something like that. Cool. Yeah. So a lot of really cool tools here. I'm sure you all have tools that you're looking at. There are more tools to be created. Gaston's going to be working on one, for example. That's right. So yeah, I would encourage you all to really lean into these tools. And the point that, the selling point here is you're really giving your team an opportunity to focus on the areas that are extremely valuable, right? And you got to sell that back to the business as well.